Welcome back into the baseline. As always, here with me is Travis Wilson of Bound, Chris Smith, head coach for Hartford. Sorry, um, it's a snowy couple days here following the girls' state basketball tournament. Chris and I were talking ahead of time. We each got about a foot of snow. Trav, how much snow you got over there in Reedsburg?
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Hard to tell with blowing and drifting and having cleared snow a couple times. Probably in that neighborhood.
Yeah, days like today where you go out and shovel because I still haven't gotten a snowblower yet. But as much as I love those plow guys, there are days where I am swearing internally at them in my head as I get down to that last 5 feet, 3 feet of the driveway, and there's an extra ton of snow to shovel. But I'm not going to complain too much.
What do
Yeah,
you?
my snowblower didn't really like this snow, so I was able to start with it, and then it just didn't like to throw the snow the way I wanted it to, so I actually ended up shoveling a bunch of it. Thankfully, I do have a neighbor though who has a small tractor with a bucket who takes care of the end of the driveway for me though.
What
You have a
guy.
single stage or a dual stage?
You're speaking things I don't even know what language that is.
I I'm just glad that my knee healed up a little bit. Boy, oh boy,
Oh, my
was I
goodness. We're
ailing
gonna have to hear
earlier
about this
Here we
this
go.
week.
the whole time.
Boy, oh boy. Let me tell you what. My knee was about double the size of the other one, and I have no idea why. So, old age got me. It was really embarrassing because all of the kids that I coach were at the basketball game, the sectional semi game on Thursday in Richland Center, and I went there and I'm limping, and they're like, "Coach, what's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know." They're like, "Oh, you playing basketball or something?" I'm like, "No, I woke up and it hurt."
I've never had anything like that happen before, where like I just wake up and something's swollen.
The trainer thinks that I talked to the trainer because she saw me limping and was giving me a hard time. She goes, "Have you had meniscus or any problems in the past?" I'm like, "I don't know. I've tweaked stuff before." And she goes, "Well, I wonder if you just tweaked it and it started swelling." And I'm like, "Oh, sweet."
Cole, nobody is tuning into this podcast to listen about your knee ailment. So let's get into talking basketball, huh?
As always, here on the baseline, we are presented by Bound. It's been a busy week this week. We've had girls state. The season is over. Boys sectionals come and gone. State is up. A lot of content has been pushed out on boundwisconsin.com. All conference lists are coming in at an alarming rate. There's just a few on the boys' side and a few on the girls' side that have yet to be collected/published. As always, though, there's scores, stats, you have schedules, everything of that sort. Pretty soon, we're going to be changing the calendar to spring sports on Bound, but not just yet. We got the boys' state tournament coming up. Now, before we kind of get into the boys' side of things, Trav, you were up in Green Bay all last week, towards the end of the week, Thursday through Saturday. Girls' state tournament sounded like at least the first couple days, the attendance was up. We had some pretty good games. I think I counted there was five of the 15 were 20 plus, but then we had six that were single digits, including three really, really good ones on that championship Saturday. Tell us about it. How was the week up in Green Bay?
Yeah, it was a really good week. There was really good, as you said, attendance, especially for the early sessions or the first few sessions, the small school sessions, to be quite honest with you. Looking at the Thursday afternoon attendance, which is the Division 5 group of teams, since the WIAA changed the order of the sessions with Division 5 first on that Thursday afternoon, it was the largest session, the Division 5 session in a Thursday afternoon, and that's going back about 10 years. They had changed it. The Thursday night session, or excuse me, that was D3. Sorry, not D5. D3 opened things on Thursday. D4 on Thursday night was a solid attendance as well, the best attended session in 6 or 7 years. Friday morning Division 5 session was very, very good. The second highest attendance since they had switched the format 10 years ago. The D2 and D1 sessions were a little down, though. D2 was a little bit down. D1 on Friday night was down considerably in the unofficial numbers that we got. Did not get an update on Saturday, so I don't have that. I'll pass it along on Twitter when we get there. But overall, some really compelling storylines coming into the state tournament. In a number of the games and teams certainly lived up to the hype. Especially as you said on Saturday with the state championship games, 3 games decided either by a single possession or, of course, that double overtime thriller in the Division I game. So overall, really good state tournament. I mean, there's been years that we've had very few, if any, close games.
Yeah.
Especially on a state championship day on both boys and girls. So, not great games, I would say, in the semis for the most part. Excuse me. But Saturday certainly made up for it. One of the bigger surprises, I think, was top-seeded Rice Lake going down in Division II. There was a little bit of question of whether it should have been Whitefish Bay as the 1 seed, and I would have argued for Whitefish Bay as the 1 seed, but Rice Lake got it. But Beaver Dam really playing well at the end of the season, took down Rice Lake by 12 in a semifinal. Otherwise, it was a little bit of chalk going from there.
Let's not just drive into this gung ho, but I do have to know if pump it up, you gotta pump it up. Are you tired of that song yet? How many times did you hear it up in Green Bay? I believe they played it before every game.
I think so. I will say the DJ hits pretty hard in Green Bay. Really like what they do, but when you sit there for 15 games and hear it consistently, it does get you a little bit. But I liked what they did. They have an excellent DJ. Always have. I would put the DJ in Green Bay certainly ahead of the DJ in Madison for the boys.
But I don't understand why they can't just play an array of music. Like there are a lot of songs that you can play pregame for games where you don't have to play the same song before every single game. You don't have to have the same structure. It's okay to be different.
How would you know to pump it up?
Oh God.
I mean, they did rotate a lot of stuff. There was some Taylor, there was some country in the pregame rotation, and it did depend a little bit as well on whether the schools had a band or not, how much time they had to fill. Keep in mind you're filling 15 minutes before 15 games. That's an awful lot of time that starts to add up. So,
are you a Swiftie, Travis?
Not at all. Not a fan of Taylor Swift.
We won't let this go. We won't clip that at all.
What is that K-pop Demon Hunter song that's
oh yeah,
hitting hard right now? That was played several times. I actually don't mind that one. But overall, yeah, a good experience. And we got to hear the Fall River Pep Band. If people have been to the boys or girls state tournament in the last decade, Fall River's made a number of appearances, and they have absolutely one of the top-notch pep bands in the state of Wisconsin. Much like the Aquinas Pep Band, they're not just a traditional, John Philip Sousa marching band type songs. They have they're essentially a rock band. They have a vocalist, they have full drum kit, they have electric guitar. They played a number of Pat Benatar songs. So that was outstanding for that D5 game right away on Friday morning, which was good to have some good music, get things going right away.
I love a good pep band, and if you can get it at the state tournament, it's always great. Drum lines back from when Vincent used to be there. Those were the best. If anybody needs any recommendations for what to do for a halftime show for their school, bring a drum line. Please, just bring a drum line.
All right, well, let's get off topic, and let me ask you your favorite pep band pregame song.
Do I have to be a part of this?
Probably a Final Countdown.
I mean, I'll go the other way and say that I don't love pep bands.
Boo!
Maybe I've had really bad experiences in the past with them, I guess, but yeah, they just don't hype me up to get ready for a basketball game. I'm sorry.
I mean, I would say Eye of the Tiger is certainly up there. Final Countdown, solid. Some of the newer songs hit pretty well, But number one for me by far is Championship. And there's no words to it. It's not like a song you can find on
Could
iTunes
you
or
could
anything
you
like
just hum the beat for us then?
no, I'm not going to do that.
Come
You would
on.
recognize it if you heard it. Colton, they played it in Richland Center a million times. It was
Yeah, I'm sure.
the
Could you refresh my memory though? I really
not going to do
really could use that.
there's copyright infringement that we would get into, and so I'm not gonna do that. But
I don't know if we would with your rhythm.
one of the pep bands did play it. Maybe the Dells right away on Thursday did play it, and it was outstanding. That's by far my favorite. So, all right, what else, Colton? Do we want to go through these kind of division by division, or how do we want to hit this?
I think we'll talk about it here. Just division by division. Pacelli comes out in D5. They're the champion. Um, Semifinal game was a lot closer than the championship game, but we did get a triple double in that championship game.
Well, we got a triple double in the semifinal game for Pacelli too. It just wasn't maybe the kind that you would want to have. Jaden Zdroik had a triple double, good and bad, in that semifinal. She had a double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, and 10 turnovers, unfortunately. But in the championship game, she did it the right way and had a triple-double with, let me pull it up quick here. She had a triple-double with 20 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. So it wasn't just, 10, 10, and 10. It was a very impressive performance by Jaden in that championship game. Ella Van Order played really well as well for Pacelli, and they were clearly the best team. I watching that first D5 semifinal game with Oliva Strum and Fall River, and then watching Pacelli and Barneveld, I was confident that whoever would have won that second game was going to win.
Yeah.
Oliva Strum's a solid team, but I think they were, their record wasn't quite where it, wasn't indicative of some of the competition they played being a little bit weaker. So I thought Pacelli was clearly the better team coming into that one, and they really dominated in that championship game. So
In D4,
that result.
D4, Neilsville came out on top. 3-point game in that championship game. This wasn't one that I was able to watch too intently, as I think this was right around when a lot of the sectional semis and boys were finishing up, so got a little distracted. But this division,
bit of a barn burner in this game, right? Like I think both teams shot in the low 30%. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a defensive battle. Neilsville is very much a defensive oriented team. They play a sticky zone defense with Tessa Warren, a 6'2" post player, kind of in the middle that takes away a lot of driving opportunities, and they're really
any relation to Grant Warren out of Marathon?
I was wondering that as well. I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised. But it was good defense on both teams, but Neilsville made enough plays down the stretch, even though they didn't close it out at the free throw line like they would have thought. In fact, Albany Monticello had the ball down by 1 with 15 seconds left, something like that, and went down, and unfortunately didn't even get a shot off. They turned it over, and then Maddie Davo knocked down a couple free throws to kind of clinch it for them. But it was kind of a slog for a while with defensive oriented teams not shooting well, but did come down to an exciting end to that game.
Yeah, some lopsided statistics with that game too. I mean, there's 19 free throws shot by Neilsville and only 8 by Albany Monticello, and then on the flip side, then Albany Monticello was 8 of 20 from 3, and Neilsville was only 2 of 7. So I mean, there's some clash of the way that both teams were scoring. It looks like Neilsville kind of just crushed them on the boards too, which obviously helps you win a basketball game.
Yeah.
D3, we hop into it, and I would say the 2 semifinal games were really good. Mosinee, I think, gave Oostburg a little bit more than what they were expecting, and then that second game with Dells and Kettle Moraine Lutheran, I mean, that one was phenomenal. The Oostburg-Dells game, Oostburg kind of flexed their muscles a little bit in that championship game. Did both senior Ketterhagen girls go down with tweaks, one in the semifinal and one in the championship, or was it the same sister?
No, it was Addie in the semifinal game. She had a wrap on her upper thigh or hip area, and you could tell it was bothering her. She went down and exited the game for a little bit before coming back. And then the championship game, Riley went down, and it really did not look good. I wasn't quite sure what it was. It ended up being an ankle, but she was down for a good amount of time and in a lot of pain. And thought it was, a not good situation. She went to the bench. She did get off on her own power. It was right before halftime, and then she came out and played in the second half. You could tell she was hobbling a little bit and limping, but she gutted it out. But looking back at Division III in general, it was really outstanding games, both the semifinal and championship games. To see Oostburg down at halftime was surprising for a lot of people. Obviously, they really did not play well. I mean, they didn't turn it over a ton. They just weren't making any shots, and very uncharacteristically, just shots at the basket that would hit the bottom of the rim and just being kind of out of control going to the rim. And Mozini took advantage of it. They did everything the right way in that first half that you would want to try to beat Oostburg, in addition to having Oostburg just make a lot of mistakes. But then in the second half, Oostburg did flex their muscle. They came out and really dominated that second half. But again, I mean, 13 points is one of the closer games that they had all year. So that was a good game. And then the second game, Wisconsin Dells and Kettle Moraine Lutheran, was outstanding as well. I mean, that's the second time, and then eventually the third time I got to see the Dells play in the last week or so, and really, really impressed with them. As I said on Twitter, that Wisconsin Dells team is a state championship team in many years, if not most years. But they ran into the buzzsaw that is Oostburg, who is a generational team with obviously 3 Division I sisters and some solid kids around them. So, it really wasn't competitive in that championship game. I thought maybe it would be a little bit more, but Oostburg just flexed their muscle and ran away with things. Even after Riley Ketterhagen went out, I can't remember the score exactly, but they extended their lead by 6 or 8 points at least when she went out late in that first half. Again, just showing what they can do. So really like the Division III games in field. And again, a lot of years, Wisconsin Dells is hoisting a gold ball.
Yeah. D2, Beaver Dam, 4 seed, wins over 1 seed Rice Lake by 12. Whitefish Bay has a pretty impressive win over Elkhorn. And then we get a 1-point Whitefish Bay game, Whitefish Bay victory in that D2 championship game.
Going back to that upset for Rice Lake over Beaver Dam, Rice Lake had 2 really dynamic players in Addie Shepley and Addison Schmidt. The problem was Beaver Dam had a better overall depth of their team, and it really showed in that game. Addie Shepley was really good. Addison Schmidt was really good, but there just wasn't enough around them to get the job done for Rice Lake. Whereas Beaver Dam, certainly they have Natalia Donaldson, who's the school's all-time leading scorer, and she played really well. But they had some kids step up in that game and in the championship game that were really impressive. And again, the depth in the overall 1 through 5 on the court, 1 through 8 or whatever it was in the rotation, was a significant advantage for Beaver Dam over Rice Lake. In the championship game, I mean, that had everything that you could look for. Thought it was going to be the game of the tournament. Was back and forth. Thought Whitefish Bay was going to run away with it. They were up by, I think it was 8 at halftime, somewhere in that range, and then went on a run at the beginning of the half and ended up going up 17 points right away in the second half, only for Beaver Dam to go on a 14-0 run of their own and claw back into it and eventually take a lead as they kind of went back and forth the rest of the way. Both teams had some opportunities to kind of take advantage or put themselves in a better position towards the end. Whitefish Bay missed a few free throws. Rowan Council missed the front end of 2 bonus free throws. And then at the end there, off of one of those misses, Sage Miskell scored to put Whitefish Bay ahead. And then coming down on the other side, Whitefish Bay got the stop defensively. A little bit of controversy, perhaps. Some people felt there was a foul on that play that closed it out, but it was an exciting game. It was really well played by both teams in a great way for that Division II game to end up.
Yeah, shout out to Whitefish Bay fan Craig out there. We know he is a baseline listener, so shout out Craig out of Whitefish Bay. D1 kind of that's where our biggest storylines I think came from on the weekend. Wauwatosa East got a 4-point win over Notre Dame, gets to 29-0, advances to the championship. Arrowhead, really impressive in the semifinal win over Pewaukee. And then we got to cap off the basketball season with arguably one of the best games, probably of the entire year, in Arrowhead Wauwatosa East in a rematch from a game earlier in the season. Went to double overtime. There was made threes with a foul for a 4-point play. There was missed layups. There was missed free throws. Everything that you could want in a championship game was there. Oh, and there was Ms. Basketball, Natalie Cuso, taking over.
Yeah, let's go back to those semifinal games, though, because there was definitely interest in those. The Tosa East Notre Dame game came right down to the end. Notre Dame had a possession with under a minute left, down by 2, with a chance to tie it up, maybe even take a lead. And just like we talked about earlier, they didn't get a shot up in that possession. They turned it over on trying to entry pass. It was kind of from up top down into the post, not the kind of pass you want to make, obviously, and turned it over. And then Micaiah Litsa closed it out with a couple free throws with 5 seconds left to give them the win. It was really interesting watching that one. We talked with Coach Mary Merg, of course, one of the better coaches in the state. Sarah Rohde was on the other side for Notre Dame, a number of state championships with them. And, two great female coaches, 2 great female ambassadors for girls, as we've talked about before. And it was really interesting watching kind of the contrast of those 2 coaches as well. Coach Merg is high energy, high intensity in it. We're in a stance down on the sideline, pacing back and forth, and just a high energy throughout. And Sarah Rohde is high energy, but it is more stoic. She stands there often with arms crossed. You can see the intensity on her face and in what she's doing. But 2 coaches that are high intensity, but display it externally a little bit differently. So that was interesting. And again, a great game that we got there. In the Arrowhead game, they really did dominate that one. Natalie Cuso in that one, and of course later, showed why she was the Ms. Basketball recipient. Had a great game with 26 points and 9 rebounds. Did set the stage, as you said, Colton, for the best game of the state tournament. One of the better games that we have seen on in the state tournament in a while. I think last year we got a triple overtime game as well, but it was a great basketball game. It was back and forth. I think both teams probably felt like they could have closed it out or executed better at different times. Arrowhead having a 4-point lead with under 30 seconds remaining, and you make the cardinal mistake of fouling a 3-point shooter, goes in and knock down the free throw. So just wild ending to that regulation. And Sydney Zahner almost made a 3-pointer at the buzzer for Arrowhead that would have been a heroic shot for her and just rimmed out. The first overtime was pretty slow paced, only 3 points for both sides, and then that overtime period, Arrowhead just kind of pulled away. Natalie Cuso exerted herself onto the game.
Tosa East had a chance. Tosa East had a chance at the end of that first one. Great backdoor pass from Litsa to Close, and layup just came not even. I mean, calling it a layup is rude to the fact of it was contested baseline.
Yeah, so. And that's again one of those that Tosa East probably felt like that was a great opportunity to seal that thing up. I think there was 5 or 6 seconds left when that play happened, and Close couldn't convert. And then in the overtime, Tosa East, let Arrowhead get a little bit of a lead, and I think they, got a little rushed on a few things here and there, and even in regulation, I think it was in regulation, there was some over dribbling that Tosa East had that put them in bad positions, resulted in turnovers. So neither team, probably super pleased with some of the execution at times, but it was a great game. There was outstanding play on both sides to get to the point that we did of a 2 overtime game that was really exciting. Wish that second overtime would have been a little bit more compelling in that last minute or so. But Arrowhead made free throws. Arrowhead beat the press as well. They had 2 layups off of the press that were uncontested. That Tosa East was trying to scramble around and get a steal and couldn't get there. So really well played game overall. And again, as you said, Ms. Basketball, Natalie Cuso, showed why she's the best player in the state this year. Just took things over when she needed to. I was thinking about this on the way home. I see some comparisons with Natalie Cuso and a little bit with Con Knipple in that she doesn't wow you with great size. She doesn't wow you with great athletic ability. She doesn't wow you with, great, measurables per se, but she plays really, really well. She understands angles, understands, leverage is you're driving to the basket or scoring and finishing inside. She pivots really well, plays off 2 feet really well. Con shoots it a little better than she does perhaps. But I saw some comparisons there just as I was thinking about, what she was able to do in that title game.
Well, I got to say that I was really impressed with the fact that, think about the amount of time she has the ball in her hands during a basketball game, right? And she had 0 turnovers for the game. She had 6 assists, no turnovers. Like, to me, that stands out big time, right? I mean, Arrowhead as a team only had 5 turnovers. So just like the pure execution of things, I mean, I'm a big numbers guy, so just browsing the box scores afterwards, like, you can really tell the story of the game and everything. And again, like, I mean, they shot 13 more field goal attempts than Tosa East and had 5 less turnovers, right? And 9 more offensive rebounds.
Those extra scoring opportunities are huge.
Yeah, those are the reasons why they won that game, right? Because both teams shot 41% and 42%. Both teams were pretty much identical from 3. Free throws is where Tosa East actually got them at 11 of 13 compared to Arrowhead 10 of 17. But like, again, plus Arrowhead plus 9 on offensive boards, plus 6 on assists, had 6-1 on blocks, had 4 less fouls and 5 less turnovers. I mean, it's actually quite amazing that this game did go to double overtime, in all honesty, because just by looking at the box score, and obviously the box score doesn't tell everything of the story, but it tells you a lot. So the fight in Tosa East was real, is something that tells me as well, that they were still able to take them into 2 overtimes.
Yeah. Just a perfect ending to the 25-26 season in girls basketball. Those last 2 games really was.
And it encapsulated what we talked about all year, right? Of those top teams playing each other and kind of round robin. It was the second game between Arrowhead and Tosa East. And it just felt right the way that ended.
Yeah. Before,
I don't know if we want to get into it. If you're going to mention it, Colton, or maybe that's what you're bringing up next, of Oostburg and their place in this year and history and the accomplishment that they had with the wins that they had.
No, but why don't you touch on that? Before we headed to the boys, I did want to touch just on the tournament being that 50th the celebration of 50 years in girls sports. And I know that the WIAA had a few things going on up at the tournament this year. So why don't you touch on Oostburg first, and then we can touch on just those extra things, extra moments that were made this weekend.
Yeah, just to put in context what Oostburg did this year, finishing 30-0, winning a second consecutive state championship, and I think going down as one of the best teams in state history, certainly at that medium school level. They beat the Division I state champion Arrowhead. They beat Division I semifinalist Notre Dame. They beat Division I semifinalist Pewaukee, Division II state champion Whitefish Bay, Division II state runner-up Beaver Dam, D3 runner-up Wisconsin Dells, D3 semifinalist Mosinee, and they beat D4 semifinalist St. Mary Catholic during the season as well. So that resume, especially in non-conference, because they pretty well dominated their league in the Big East, That resume, I don't know how you could have something like that. To be honest with you, another team that would have something like that. Um,
And especially that many wins against teams one and two divisions ahead of you that were state tournament qualifiers.
Yeah, we've seen great teams, a number of great teams. We've seen great teams recently. I think Oostburg is right up there with any and all of them in terms of the best team that we have seen. And again, when you talk medium schools, I don't know. I would have to go back and peruse the records and the history a little bit more. But from a Division III type of school, I don't know how anybody would be in that conversation with Oostburg and what they did this year. So just want to give Coach Ketterhagen and his crew, that those flowers of just how impressive it was that what they accomplished this year. Oh, by the way, they will move to Division II next year as part of the WIA's tournament performance factor. They certainly obviously lose the twin Ketterhagens, Addie and Riley, but Kinsley returns. They've got a good nucleus, a good group of young kids coming back as well. Sonia Barton, right? Is that? Let me double check. I think that's who it is that's coming back. Soraya Benton. Sorry, I knew it was an S and a B. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. Soraya Benton, really good player for them, transferred in this year, is back. There's another Ketterhagen sister that is eighth grade, I think, or seventh grade that will somewhere in the younger group that will be up soon as well. So we'll see. We saw three of the four Division I finalists, semifinalists this year that were elevated. It would not be a surprise to see Oostburg continue to be a really good program and potentially compete in Division II next year. Kinsley Ketterhagen is an elite player, an elite recruit, and she's just going to be another year older, stronger, and better. So they will very much, I imagine, be in the mix in Division II next year.
Yeah. 50 years of girls basketball culminated in this past weekend's state tournament. They honored, I think, was it the 76 team? They honored some coaches, some players, some alum.
They
And
honored a lot of people. Yeah, it was cool to see. First of all, there was a lot of signage and a lot of history that they had up around the arena. There was a display that they had at the Green Bay Visitor and Convention Bureau for the last month or two as well, with some artifacts from state history, jerseys and programs and those kinds of things. There was a bunch of stuff again at the arena itself. They did a great job with some signage and some posters and things that help tell the story of the 50 years of the WIAA girls basketball state tournament. And then on Saturday, they did bring in a number of pioneers in girls basketball. They brought back some of the female administrators that have been involved in the game, including current WIAA assistant director Melissa Gehring, also Deb Dinkel, formerly Deb Hauser, Kate Peterson-Abiad, and then Sheila, the longtime assistant for Karen Kuhn, was back as well. And of course, Stephanie Hauser is the executive director of the WIAA. So a lot of females that have been integral in basketball. They recognized a number of players. Three former WNBA players from the state came back. Sam Logic from Racine Case, Janelle McCarville from Stevens Point, and Anna DeForge, who was a standout player at Niagara. Were back and recognized. They recognized some officials that officiated at the state tournament a number of years. Danita Johnson, Tammy Hutchinson, Shelly Dietz, who went on and officiated a game later in the day on Saturday. Some of the coaches that had been a part of the state tournament for a lot of years. Jeff Pustina. They had 7 of the top 10 winningest girls basketball coaches were there. Jim Myers was not there during the recognition. I'm guessing he was back maybe watching the Barneveld boys team on Saturday. But Jeff Pustina was there from Cuba City, Jim Schweitzer from Columbus, Pam Cruz from Milwaukee, Washington, Joe Doucette. I'm forgetting who else. Doug Pickards. There was a few others that were there. Some other coaches that had won 3 or more championships in a row. Marcus Hines with Milwaukee Vincent, Sarah Rohde from Notre Dame, Ted Alberson from Flambeau. They had some members of the Omro team that was there. They made it to the first 3 state championships or state tournaments in WIAA history. They were recognized as well. And then later on, they had a whole group of probably 50 women that had participated in the very first girls' state championships in 1976 from I don't know whatever it was, 8 schools. Had a bunch of them that had returned and were recognized as well. So it was really cool to see that history on display. I wish it was something that they would do a little bit more of, to be honest with you. We don't need to have an anniversary to be able to recognize and celebrate those kinds of accomplishments. Think of all the time that's kind of dead air at halftime of some of the games. Mm-hmm. If there's not a dance team or a band that's performing, why not bring back at the boys state tournament Lamont Weaver and Sam Decker and the Showalters and Sam Oakey and Anthony Pieper and some of these people. I would hate to think that we have to do that only on anniversary type celebrations. I think that would be a cool thing to connect to the past. And as a history buff myself, I would love to see more of that.
Yeah. Could you even imagine, like, even if those guys or women like couldn't even come to those games, but to be recognized physically there, I mean, just putting together some sort of highlight reel, if that's available, to play in some of those dead spots like you were talking about would be, I mean, that would be amazing to be able to watch something like you said, like this, like Sam Decker watching his highlights from that championship game and he hit that buzzer shot, right? Like that's something that I'll never forget being in the house for that game, you know, those types of things. But then letting people see just the bucket that Anthony Pieper was. And if there's some highlights out there that we could see of those, I think that would be really cool to do too.
This would be a great year. It's not an anniversary year for the Sam Decker shot. Tomorrow, by the way, Tuesday, depending on when this is released, Tuesday, March 17th, is the anniversary of Sam Decker's famous shot back in 2012. But it sounds like there's a chance Sam will be in the house as Sheboygan Lutheran is qualified on the boys' side. So he might be at the Kohl Center, which would be
he was tweeting out about it. And he's excited. So yeah, hopefully he's there. That'd be cool.
If he wants to do a quick phone interview for the baseline, Sam, just hit me up. We'll get that scheduled out.
I'll reach out to him. I'll tweet at him or send him a message. I'll see what he says.
That was a girls' tournament. That's the girls' year. It's been fun being able to follow it. Trav, appreciate you kind of spearheading the coverage here on the baseline on that side and even on Bound. You pushed out a boatload of content. I think it was
25 girls basketball articles published in 8 days. I'm saying for Bound, Wisconsin, which I'm very proud of what we did to get content out there and into people's hands. So,
yeah. Obviously, we're not going to, as we get into the off season, we're not going to only focus on boys basketball. That's not the case, but it has been nice that you've been able to spearhead that discussion for Chris and I, whose obviously focus is mostly on the boys side. So,
yeah. And it was good to get back to Green Bay. I went for 12 years in a row or something like that. I missed a few in the last 3 or 4 years, but it was great to get back and see people, see the reactions, see the games. Had a lot of very positive comments from people that were talking about what we did at Bound and on the baseline banter. I had a gentleman come up to me as I was eating on, I think it was Friday evening or afternoon, said, "Oh, hey, this is my daughter. Want to thank you for covering her. You mentioned her on the baseline banter a couple of times, so thank you for doing that." So that was always good to see, and it was great to get to games. I was a little limited in getting to girls' games this year with my son playing, but being able to get out the last week in the state tournament and those sectional games was a lot of fun.
I have enjoyed getting the hey, I listened to the pod. I've had a couple coaching colleagues that will tell me that, like, pregame. Met a Colton from GET that came up to me after the regional final game and goes, hey, I really like the pod. Appreciate what you're doing. You guys are great to listen to. Let's look forward to it every Tuesday. And I'm like, thanks. What's your name? He goes, Colton. I'm like, oh, great name, Colton. I
Does
hate
does
saying my name out loud.
does he have a bunch of little figurines in his basement too?
Oh, those are Funko Pops and Legos.
I almost, Chris, I thought, Chris, as you were saying that statement, I thought you were saying, does he have little fingers as well?
Chris, we didn't have you on last week. So I want to take this moment before we get into the boys' side to just let you reflect, let you kind of talk. Maybe I was really hoping you'd come on just for that to get that raw emotion out of you. I know it's difficult as a coach the day after um, the season-ending loss to want to talk basketball literally at all, or want to talk about anything other than just maybe to your family and get that reprieve. But I'd love to hear you just kind of take a moment now to kind of depress a little bit. How do you think your season went? Obviously, great season by you. Big congratulations. Most wins at Hartford in quite a while. But yeah,
Yeah. Um,
stage is yours.
yeah, I mean, we finished the season 18-8. There's not many programs, I think, across the state that wouldn't be ecstatic about that, right? Um, and yeah, like you said, our 18 wins this year um, is tied for second most wins in school history. And it dates all the way back to the last time they won 18 games was 1981, when they actually were in the state tournament and lost that season in the semis, I believe it was. Um, so is the first time that we had played in a regional championship game since 2009. So a lot of really kind of some very important barriers that we were able to overcome and break through this year. We're really working hard at continuing to try to change the culture and make ourselves a basketball community in Hartford. And I think we're doing a really good job and we're headed in the right direction. The kids that I've coached, I had to say goodbye to 6 seniors this year, which is really, really tough. Especially with the 6 guys that I had this year, simply because they all played a huge role in leadership and kind of paving the way for what ended up being a great season for the last 4 years, being a part of the program. Obviously, going out the way we did in the regional championship game on our home floor, it doesn't, it leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, but we had some things not go our way. Like, our best player going out with an ankle injury 2.5 minutes into the game. That doesn't help your cause by any means. But I'm really proud of the way that our guys battled that entire night and didn't just pack it in. We have some really talented players on our team, and the fact that we were able to keep that game close for as long as we did before we kind of ran out of gas. I'm really proud of our guys for that. We just finished up with our banquet last night. Actually, it was a great couple hours that we got to spend with each other, and we got to talk about all the different records that we broke this year and some of the individual things that kids accomplished this year that hasn't happened in a long time either. We had Sam Richter was a first team all conference kid, who we also have not had a first team all conference kid since 2009.
Oh wow.
So like just things that are happening for the first time in forever, right? I think is bringing a lot of excitement to the Hartford boys basketball program. And the support that we had from our fan base was incredible this year. Obviously our girls side of things have been doing really great in the last 6 years, and is nice to see the support on both sides for the boys and the girls, because we're both exciting to watch. And it was a packed house last Saturday for that game. So I don't know. I'm still not completely, fully reflected upon the season. I've had some really long talks already with my wife about certain things, and I am excited to be able to spend more time with my family, which I've been able to in the last week. But at the same time, my wife knows, my kids know, that there's only a few weeks off here, and then it's like straight back to what's next year look like. Uh, we've we've already myself and my assistants have already had conversation about what the next year might look like and how we need to replace certain things. So it's never really there's never really a stop to it, right? There's just kind of a hard reset button.
Pause.
Yeah, and it just starts up again. And I'm just really thankful for the people that I have around me and the things that we've been able to do in the last few years to build what has kind of come into fruition this year, and hopefully we can continue to ride that into the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're buddies. We do a podcast together, but just someone from afar too. You deserve those flowers. So congratulations on a great season. I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to kind of to have sit here in the sidecar and follow along, and I've learned a boatload from you over the last like 5 months. So this is just the beginning, and
Yeah,
look forward to what you're going to build.
yeah, appreciate that.
Let's get into D1. Let's get into sectional review. We'll go division by division. It's talk about some of the points that were a little bit surprising, some that were a little bit not. D1, I think, is one of those divisions where it was a little bit not surprising. Four of what you might consider probably the favorites in each of those sectionals came out of it. Appleton North beat FVA Focacana in that sectional final to get to this point. But yeah, we have 3 number 1 seeds and a number 2 seed that advanced to the state tournament. And I think, if I remember right, it's the only division where if you look at our bound power index, that the top 4 teams are the top 4 teams that are at state, or the 4 teams that are at state.
Yeah, I mean the cream of the crop, right? It's there, and you look at the sectionals, and obviously there's a lot of really tough sectionals and some teams that made some really nice runs. But I mean, you look at Appleton North and you look at De Pere, Madison Memorial, Wisconsin Lutheran. 3 of those teams for sure. Everyone knows who they are, right? Just because of their history and everything. Appleton North, I don't know. I saw this recently, but they haven't been to a state tournament. Is it ever? Or ever? Yeah, that's what I thought.
This is the first conference championship they've won on the boys' side.
Yeah, so I mean that's really exciting. But to be honest with you, I saw the Appleton North thing coming for the last 4 years. I coached against those guys 4 years ago when they were all freshmen, and I was like, holy. Talking to Coach Kellett over there, like, just, hey man, like, you got to hang around here for a little while yet because you got some talent here. These guys are going to be dynamite in a few years, and he was really excited about that freshman group, and obviously now they're heading to Madison, and it's pretty fun to kind of see that. So they're a team that I've always had my eye on. So the way they play too, it's fun. They really get after it defensively, and they're a hard-nosed team and physical. And Grant Hardy's a good player to watch play too.
Yeah, that whole group is talented, and like you said, I think 4 of the seniors are going to go play somewhere. The sophomore is possibly going to be better than all 4 of the seniors and going to be a D2, D1 kid. So it's a really good group out of Appleton North. D2, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to say it too, like, obviously Wisconsin Lutheran, right? I just wanted to mention those guys and what they did in the first couple rounds.
Okay.
Obviously every single round, but like, I mean, they're putting up scores where was it the first 3 games they didn't even give up 30 points in a game. That doesn't happen in boys basketball ever.
No.
Especially, in a sectional game where you're giving up, oh man, like you're just not giving up points, and like they are not even playing great, I would say, to their standards in the first half of a couple of those games, and they still pull out and win by almost 30. We're going to see them at full throttle on the biggest stage this week, and I'm super excited to just watch them. And it's just their size and athleticism and their defensive prowess. All those things come to mind right away. And then the talent they have on the offensive end is second to none either. So we'll see if anybody can put them to the test at all.
Well, even in that Milwaukee Hamilton game you referenced, the sectional semifinal, that was what, a 6 or 8 point game at halftime.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was 6.
Same with Case, right?
Yeah, true.
And then
Both
they
of
just
them.
blew the doors off in the second half.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do want to touch on the fact that we are getting a Big 8 team at State. We'll go through the Big 8 preview, but that Verona-Madison Memorial game in the sectional final was a pain in the butt to watch. I don't know if the Wi-Fi at Sun Prairie West was just awful because the stream was as glitchy as, unless it was just mine and I couldn't see it, but it was very tough to watch that game on YouTube. But
well,
Madison
it was better than
Memorial.
watching the Wisconsin Lutheran Case game, where it
Oh,
was 88 minutes
88.
left in the game, and the score kept changing by 6 or 8 at a time.
Well,
and
then
those NFHS streams.
An interesting, I don't know, non-call towards the end of that game as well. That
The Verona Memorial one.
yeah, that maybe could have swayed things one way or the other.
You know,
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know.
From the angle that
Maybe the whistle
broadcast
fell out of
was-
his mouth. I'm not sure.
the angle of the broadcast, it looked like it was tipped and could have been a held ball. And then you see that angle on the baseline, and it was
Yeah.
not touched at all,
No.
let alone a held ball, let alone knocked out of his hands. He just came down. That was
I mean, I will say by the player himself, like he knew what he did, but he did a good job of just continuing to play and just made the pass quick, like made it look like, oh, I was able to do this.
Don't stop what you're
type
doing.
thing. So
Don't
he
hear the
just kept
whistle.
playing. Right. You didn't hear the whistle. You keep playing, because a lot of kids would just like stop. I'll be honest. Like I've seen stuff like that happen a lot. Right. Where so credit to him, like just continuing to play on and make the pass and, knock down from there, I guess. But yeah, it was an interesting situation.
Yeah. Moving on to D2 in the sectionals. I think the story in sectional 1 is that West Salem, coming out of it, they avenged loss over to Onalaska. They avenged the loss to La Crosse Central, both tight games, and then they ended up beating Menominee in that sectional final. But then on the other hand, you had that really big matchup with Port Washington and Slinger in the sectional final. And man, Slinger's defense all season, but specifically in this tournament run, has been something to behold.
Yeah, I mean, they're when they are right defensively, there are not many teams that can score consistently against them. And I talk to Coach Levine all the time, and talking to him recently, he's like, I hate to bring it up to you again, but he said that was maybe the best defensively we've been since we played you guys. And I was like, oh, gee, yeah, thanks a lot, appreciate that.
He hates bringing that up.
But no, but I mean, he's right. When I was watching that game a little bit, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I was having flashbacks because just their length and their ability to, like, their guards, right? Yes, their front court is really long and big and everything, and obviously like Joey Conan's a guard, but when you got guys like Fogel and Palm flying around in the passing lanes and they get deflections and they know that they can be aggressive in the pass lanes because they have the Conans and the Sakarla kid behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, that bodes so well for you defensively.
You can do a lot more on the perimeter than what
it puts
you
a
normally
lot
would
of
be
pressure
able to.
on teams. Puts a lot of pressure on teams, and let's face it, there's not a lot of high school teams who can handle that kind of pressure all the time for 36 minutes, and and that's what it ended up being. But defensively, Slinger, man, there's something to be reckoned with, and then you looked at the New Berlin West and McFarland game, right? I mean, that was a battle for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, McFarland just turned the burners on and ran away with that game.
They kind of did that this whole playoff run.
Yeah.
McFarland has. The Kruger kid has been dynamite. I mean, he had a 20-plus point game, double-double in that sectional championship game, which, I mean, New Berlin West doesn't necessarily have a lot of size, but they got past, Henry Grutzmacher and Brookfield Central, and then they got past Matthew Klosky and that Wauwatosa West crew. So,
right. Some big-time wins there. Yeah, for sure. Then you got like a 4 seed in West Salem, right, coming through and knocking off Onalaska, which is a huge win, and then knocking off La Crosse Central. And to do that and back-to-back games says something to how you're playing, I would say, right?
And that's 4 trips to state in the last 5 years for West Salem, right? Or is it 4 and
Yeah,
6 or something like that?
I think it's 4 and
And this
5.
this one to me is the most surprising because number one, moving up to Division Two,
Mm-hmm.
um, they had a very good year. They won the Cooley Conference, but they didn't have the name recognition that Peter Latos and Tamarian Henderson and Kepnick and some of those guys that were on those 3 state tournament teams in a row. So I think that one's a little surprising to me. I thought Central and Alaska were maybe a little bit vulnerable, but I thought they'd be vulnerable to each other. I did not see West Salem beating both of those teams and coming out of it. And
West
then
Salem's been in D2.
the last time they qualified was D2. You're right, but um, it's impressive for them to do
Yeah,
it. Going back to when they made it in 2024, because they're playing in a Cooley conference that is not a big school D3 league. It's a D3 D4 league, and
yeah.
then they move up and play D2 teams in the playoffs. And so, as you said, they've scheduled those Mississippi Valley Conference teams. I think almost all of them at different times. So they try to challenge themselves and get ready for that moment. But that was impressive. And then I'll tell you, you mentioned Eli Krieger from McFarland. I saw him twice this year. Saw him twice last year as they played my Reedsburg Beavers. And I really like that kid. I'm glad that he's going to get a chance to show what he can do on the big stage. He's just a junior, but he's really impressive. Right now, I think the offers he's gotten are mostly mid-major type, but I think he's a high major kid. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this year and then obviously the club season goes. But if he does end up at a mid-major type, I could absolutely see him being a bounce back kid to come back to Wisconsin after a year or two, because I think he's got what it takes. He's 6'9". He's pretty decently built. He looks and even plays in a lot of ways kind of like Bielowskis from Wisconsin. Maybe not quite as big, but he's skilled and really moves well on the interior. He's not explosive vertically. I mean, that's the thing that's going to keep a lot of people away probably. But he moves his body well. He understands positioning and all that kind of stuff. And I really like him. I'm glad that he's going to be on the big stage. And like I said, it'd be interesting to see where he does end up.
Yeah, the last D2 team that we're getting, Coach Chris, another North Shore team at the
Yeah.
state tournament in D2. Whitefish Bay, they handled Waterford in that sectional final game, and that comes after handling a talented Milwaukee Academy of Science in the sectional semis.
Yeah, Whitefish Bay is rolling a lot, really well right now, and like what they had been really scoring the ball, quite a bit, and then all of a sudden in the sectional final game, like they really displayed their defense, and they've always been a very gritty defensive team, and switching up defenses really well, and I was actually really surprised by this a game. Not that Whitefish Bay won, that's not what I'm saying, but the fact that this game wasn't a nail biter to the end. Waterford, a team that shoots the ball 36% from the three and ends up shooting 4 of 22 for 18% in that game. Like that's not who they are. And,
Yeah,
I think they shot 29% from the floor for the game. So one of those days that, you end up having your worst shooting day on on the biggest game of the season. And that's unfortunate, but you got to tip your cap to Whitefish Bay and the things that they've been doing. They've been rolling. Yeah, it's an interesting thing that's happening that two teams from the North Shore head into Madison and with the potential for there to be a North Shore state championship game.
yeah, we'll get into that in the preview. Jumping into D3, that first sectional, St. Croix Central, they had quite a few fireworks in that Osceola game. They got a buzzer beating putback by their 6'9" big Tanner Grinnell. Got an offensive rebound, went right back up, wins it over middle border full Osceola, and then they were down against GET for quite a while. But I mean, they've got size. In talking or in looking at it, they had 0 first team all conference kids. St. Croix Central did 0 first team all conference kids in the middle border.
Yeah, they shared the league title. It was a 3-way tie. They shared the league title. They were the 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
1 seed in their sectional, make it to state, and they don't have a first team all conference player. That seems kind of
Big
crazy.
ups to head coach Matt Bailey. Like, you deserve your flowers as a coach for
Yeah.
that, right?
And he was the
And I
conference
mean,
player coach
but
of the year.
I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in their all conference meeting to hear what really went down in there at that point, because that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it?
Especially post it. Yeah, in retrospect. Um, D2 or sectional 2, we got that highly anticipated game. That Freedom Seymour game that, when as the season goes along and you look to see what the sectional assignments are, that game has been circled for since December for a lot of people that really love basketball. And Seymour ended up winning it by 7. I got to watch a little bit of the Seymour Xavier game as well, where Seymour kind of ran away with that. Trav, you got to see Seymour. Man, that team can. It's kind of like death by a thousand cuts with that squad. They just do a lot of things right, and when you think you're going to go on a run against them, they can quench it pretty quickly and go back on their own.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. Go ahead, Travis.
yeah. Kyler Marks kind of drives them to a large extent. He's their leading scorer at 20 points a game, but they've got a lot of guys, like you said, Colton, that just they throw at you, and it's kind of relentless. Um, Good athletes, strong physical kids. Xavier Salzman is a linebacker in football and a really physical kid for them as a senior. They've got 5 guys that average at least 8 points a game, including
Yeah.
a 20-point a game scorer. So they have a lot of guys that can hurt you. Um, just thinking about this in general, as a fan, you want to see some of the best players at state. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that would have liked to have seen Donovan Davis and Freedom get to state. Just like I think there's a number of people selfishly, I would have loved to see Amari Herford and Beloit Memorial get to state and be able to see him in person. But that doesn't always happen. And Seymour is an outstanding team
Yeah.
with some very good individual players. And they're going to be. It's going to be a tough out with what they can throw at you.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the Marks kid, right? And like I think obviously a big X factor in that game is him going 5 of 8 from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
In a game that's played in the 50s, you have a kid that hits 5 threes. I mean, those are game changing type things. Especially you have a 29-28 game going into halftime, and then some of those perimeter shots go in, and you're trading 2s for 3s, right? Like that's tough to do. But I mean, yeah, Seymour went 13 of 27 for 3. That's a big deal. Shooting 48% for a game. I mean, you had 13 threes in the game, man. That's a lot of points for sure. You're scoring half of your points from back there.
Sectional 3, Lancaster beat Platteville in the grudge match. The weird thing, these are 2 conference teams of mine. The weird thing with their first 2 matchups, Lancaster won by 30 plus in the first time, Platteville won by 30 plus the second time, and then we had an 8-point game in the sectional semi. So it was a little bit of you would expect that in the sectional semifinal game, but I would have not expected the 2 regular season. But Lancaster ran into the juggernaut that is Lake Mills. Lake Mills has been impressive all playoffs. They are so fun to watch play basketball.
Yeah, I mean, a great run by Lancaster, though, right? And even Platteville to that point, right? Like, in that sectional semi, you have the 4 and 6 seed playing against each other. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. I mean, it's quite the run, like to get to knock off, like teams like Aquinas and Mineral Point, like getting knocked off and not even making it into sectionals, right? So that's quite the run there. But yeah, Lake Mills, man, I've seen them in person a couple times, and they're just really fun to watch. They're so well coached, and the pace that they play on both ends of the floor is really exciting. And I think just as I got, obviously all 4 teams that are making it to the state tournament are really, really good, but I'm excited to see Lake Mills in person and just watching the things they do, because I always feel like I'm sitting in the stands taking notes and writing things like, oh yeah, I like that. Like I need to add that to our arsenal as well. So always a team that I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah.
In Division 3, we've talked about this before, and I just thought it was interesting looking at some of the teams that these teams had played, because there is a good sized gap between the competition, the size of teams that, for instance, Seymour played this year, where they played 18 games against teams, or 17 games against teams above Division 3. Now, some of those are D2 teams in the Bay
Yeah.
Conference that, the Green Bay schools aren't great, but St. Croix Central played only 3 games against teams above Division 3 and lost all 3 of them.
Yeah, so
Same as Lake Mills.
we're really gonna see though, like how that affects you, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there is that discrepancy there, and then you have some different like clashes in style of play as well,
Yeah.
that are going to be interesting to see like how those chess matches work out.
Let's save
You
that.
look
Let's save that for the state preview.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
that we'll
look
get
at
into.
if you look at it, 3 of the teams are in the top 5 of the Bound Power Index in Division 3, and then St. Croix Central is 23rd in
Mm-hmm.
Division 3. So we'll see
Yeah.
if they can hang. I guess is one way to look at it, right?
Yeah,
In sectional 4 and D3, Racine St. Cat's, Racine St. Lutheran. I mean, a 3-point game. I don't remember the exact number that I saw, but I want to say the last 6 games between these two teams have been 3 points or less, have been one possession games. I mean, that is just insane.
And those are intense games. I mean,
Yes.
I
well, yeah.
watched
I mean,
some
you're
of the stream, and even the end. There was
Lutheran
some
he had a good
chirping.
look at the shot.
Yeah, they did,
Yeah.
and there was some chirping at the end of it, and that is as intense as you can get, pretty much in a high school basketball game. Those 2 teams going at it.
Yeah. Uh, on the top, Oosberg ended up falling to Racine St. Cat's, but man, it was fun watching Cade Dirksey dribble that ball. He's kind of a little wizard at times. He's so in control with the ball in his hand, and especially in that Kettle Moraine Lutheran game. Hopping
yeah.
down to deep.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see like Racine St. Cat's and see if anybody can kind of shut down the Mont a little bit, right? Like they go as he goes.
Yeah. Heading into D4, out of sectional 1, you got Cloverbelt West. Cloverbelt West?
Yes.
Cloverbelt West co-champ. Regis, funnily enough, Regis's closest game this year in the playoffs was the 7-2 matchup against Bangor back in the regional semis. Otherwise, it's been a 22-point win or 24-point win in the regional final. It was a 20-point win in the sectional semi, and then they had a 19-point win in the sectional championship game. So not a lot of fireworks, not a big storyline to talk about really in that sectional 1.
I mean, Regis was lighting it up though offensively there for a couple games, 91 and 99. Man, I just don't. Yeah, that you don't see scores from. You don't see teams scoring that many points in back-to-back games at any division or level. So like it's pretty sweet.
In that regional championship game, I believe Blake Rissler had 56. So that'll help you get to 99 pretty quickly.
Yeah, that it will.
In sectional 2 and D4, Bonduelle comes out. Man, Bonduelle has had a trek to get there. They played Iola Scandinavia, a team that they'd beat twice, but had beat twice without Alex Robbins. They won that in the regional final. In the sectional final, they knocked off undefeated Kiwani, one of the better D4 sectional semis, one of the better games on that Thursday. And then they took down 2-loss Marathon, 1-loss Marathon, 2-loss Marathon to get it. So Bonduelle, who had been as our D4 state runner-up last year, they're playing extremely well, especially in these sectional games.
Yeah, and I think the experience of having been there, I think really does matter. So they're playing with a ton of confidence and understanding that they come out and they play well. They have a chance, just as good a chance to win a game as anybody else, right? So I really do believe that whole experience of being there before, and they're a load, man. Like they're a good team. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up.
The games in D3, I think Coach Rainey out of Cambridge is probably thrilled the fact that I think 3 out of their 4 games I picked against them. Um, they come out of the sectional though. They beat what many would consider the favorite in Darlington, and then the other top favorite was would have been Lomira, but Cambridge, who shared the Capital South title with New Glarus and Marshall. That Cambridge Lomira game, boy, that was fun to watch. That was one of the few games that was on at 7 later in the night, and having that on the one TV and then having the D2 Girls Championship game on the other, there was just fireworks all throughout the night.
Yeah, that Cambridge team is fun to watch, and obviously a really good young coaching staff over there, and they're doing the best that they could possibly do right now with having those guys rolling at the right time.
Yeah.
Shout out Cambridge. That's where I did my student teaching.
Ooh, Blue Jays.
Yeah, man.
But it's separated. The Blue Jays.
Yes. Oh, the word. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I get reminded of that frequently because there's one other Blue Jay that is separated. Otherwise, they're all together, and
Three Lakes.
I mess it up.
In D2 or in Sectional 2, Juneau comes out of it. They had a couple close games. Cedar Grove, Belgium pushed them, ended up winning by 16. And then that game against Howard's Grove. Howard's Grove was actually up.
Yeah.
Towards the end, was it 5 or 6 minutes left in that when I think Howard's Grove held a 2 or 5 point lead or something like that, but Juneau ended up taking it.
Yeah, that game was really back and forth the entire day. Really, I mean, either team getting up by a couple possessions here and there, and then the other one makes a run and takes the lead back. And at the end of the day, it seemed like the Dooney Johnson factor was such a big deal with his ability just to get to the rim whenever they needed him to get there. And then him making a couple really big stops on the defensive side of things down the stretch there to kind of cap it. So Howard's Grove, though, man, those guys are tough as nails, and they competed like crazy. So they very well could have walked out of there with a win. People might have thought that they were a big underdog coming into that game, but I didn't think so at all. I thought that they held their own and were a really, really good team.
Yeah. D5 Sectional 1, Turtle Lake not going back to the Cole Center because Prentice is red hot right now. Out of the Marywood North, they have won a lot of games in a row. They're the 3 seed in their they were the 3 seed in their sectional. They've been pretty. I mean, they beat Columbus Catholic, they beat Rib Lake, and then they beat Turtle Lake in that sectional championship game. It was actually tied with, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds left, and Prentice got 2 free throws out of senior Aiden House that ended up being the deciding factor. So Prentice is on a roll.
Yeah, it's the perfect time of the season to get rolling, and some of that stuff is contagious. So anything can happen at this point.
In Sectional 2, Reedsville, who has been one of the best teams in D5, they've got one of the better all-around players, and their point guard, Ben Prochnow. Man, can he he makes his teammates better, which is something you obviously want out of your point guard, and then he can score it as well. They played a Tigerton team, though, in that sectional championship game that Trav, we have talked about, Chris, we've talked about. It was like Tigerton hasn't played much. Their schedule had been pretty weak, especially coming in. They got to win over Newman Catholic in the regional final. They beat Wabeno Leona in the sectional semi. They actually led for quite a bit of this game, and Reedsville came back, though. That I think Reedsville playing those D3, D4s in the Big East really does have a big impact on a team being able to close out games like that.
Yeah, I think, Tigerton held a 5-point lead going into halftime, and then Reedsville, came out in the second half and kind of really, it seemed like they just really ramped up the pressure and were able to get some turnovers and kind of get that game going a little bit helter-skelter. And it just felt like Tigerton all of a sudden felt super uncomfortable. I mean,
yeah,
to get out, to only score 12 points in the second half, and get outscored by 16 is saying something about Reidsville just turning it into their type of tempo game, and just showing that they deserve to be moving on. Obviously,
It's a indication of what we've talked about before, and I think we talked about it specifically in our boys preview of at this Division 5 level, the level of competition that you play
mm-hmm.
is such a huge factor. All of the qualifiers in Division 5 played 10 to 15 games against teams above them, above Division 5. The teams that, for instance, in the Ridge and Valley with Kickapoo and North Crawford, two of the top teams all year, Tigerton, some of the teams out of the Lakeland, those teams that play almost all Division 5 opponents didn't fare so well. And that's not uncommon, that drop down effect, but it's really highlighted this year in Division 5 specifically. Reidsville played 15 games against above D5. Sheboygan Lutheran played 19 games above Division 5. So that is a big difference.
Well,
I agree.
I think that just Reidsville, the quickness and the athleticism, I think, was just overtaking. Tigerton is a team who really likes to play through James Brady, right? And James Brady, he's huge, but not necessarily a guy who can really move laterally and get up and down the floor very well. And so when they can't get into their half court sets and everything, and where they're really struggling to get the ball up across half court even at times, I mean, I think it does, Travis. Like, it says a lot about Reidsville already playing teams that are just as quick, just more athletic, teams who have more firepower on the perimeter, especially, to where, that does play a huge role. And all of a sudden, in games like this, where you can just kind of turn it on and let things flow a little bit.
Yeah, that narrative of playing teams above your division kind of is another talking point here in that sectional 3, where Southwestern is finally off the schneid. Coach Nemitz, congratulations. Coached with Trav at Richland Center, friend of the program. They're moving on. I was at the sectional semifinal game with Crawford, and the backcourt of Aiden Kelleher and Carson Splinter, boy, that team was just poised. You could tell that they had been in situations where it was close games and had the poise and whatnot to finish games out, hold games off. And then, as you saw in the game against Assumption, who another team that really benefited from that drop down effect, Assumption was up 15 or so points in that one, especially in the early going. I don't remember exactly what the halftime score was, but I know Southwestern had not scored 20 points at that point. And Southwestern ends up coming back and getting that 1-point win.
They have had so many close calls going back 8 years or so. I think that was their 4th or 5th trip to the sectional final. They lost a number of heartbreakers. There was that controversial game, Bangor, I think it was, with a shot that counted that it appeared maybe shouldn't have. They've been so close for so long, and just really happy for Coach Nemitz to get over the top and get there. Incredible comeback, as you said. I think, did they score the last 9 or 10 points in that game?
It was something like that, yeah.
It just didn't give up, and excited for them to get there after being so close for so long.
Yeah, and a team that finished 3rd in their conference, right? For them to make the run all the way to Madison is pretty special.
Yeah, in most years they're finishing 3rd or 4th in their conference, because Cuba, Darlington, Mineral Point are usually 3, and you'll have your Fenimores or IGs that have their years as well. That last sectional, to finish off our sectional review, Sheboygan Lutheran and Oakfield played a heck of a game in that sectional semi. It went into overtime. I don't know if you guys saw the 3 that Zach Leonard hit at the end of regulation for Sheboygan Lutheran, but it was one of those that hit the front rim or back rim, bounced about 15 feet in the air, came down and went in and forced the game into overtime. He's that kid that we talked about, difference maker, coming back from injury late in the season. So
the Kawhi Leonard shot.
The Kawhi Leonard shot, where you just kind of sit and watch and literally no one talks.
I did see that specific highlight. I I mean, all you can do is like shake your head at that point and be like, it was meant to be, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to go in.
They squared off against Barneveld in the sectional championship. Barneveld had a good run. Um, they're actually very impressive in playoffs up to this point. They beat two-time back-to-back state tournament appearance Abundant Life Christian in the sectional semi, but then just fell to Sheboygan Lutheran in a really close game. Really close back and forth game in that sectional final.
Coach Sullivan's done a great job there. I'm excited. He's going to coach my son in AAU with Wisconsin Hoops Select this spring and summer. So I'm excited for that opportunity. Great run by Barneveld. But remind me, Colton, who was it? Was it the Boylan kid from Sheboygan Lutheran that transferred out? I mean,
yeah.
Keep that in mind. They lost one of their most talented players to a transfer in the offseason and still here at state.
Yeah.
It's weird how sometimes that kind of it makes teams excel even that much more, right? Where like you have something like that happen and they just, instead of all becoming individuals, they all just really come together closer and they end up just making it work, right? And not really skipping a beat. So
yeah. We're going to switch gears. We're going to go to the state preview. We're going to start in D5, or we're going to start at D3 or D4. D4 is the first session that we'll have that day on Thursday. So we'll start D4.
D3
we'll
is the first session.
D3. We'll start D3. And we'll work our way kind of chronologically. And then we'll get into a little bit of state tournament superlatives because, again, this is one of my favorite 3 days of the week, of the year. Though we do work it and though we are sitting there down on press row, I love going up to the coaches suite, talking to yourself, Chris, talking to all the other coaches, and then everything else that comes with it. So, state tournament preview. In D3, the seeds shook out as Seymour is the 1, St. Croix Central is the 4. They'll play that first game. Lake Mills is the 2. Racine St. Cat's is the 3. I don't think there's really anything much to debate here when it comes to the seeding in D3. I think they got this one pretty correct.
Yeah, I think they got it right. I mean, obviously Seymour beat Lake Mills head to head. So like that's a big one right there anyways, right? And then Seymour's been undefeated pretty much the entire season. Their only blemish is to Oshkosh North, who also made a pretty big run in the postseason. So I mean, I think that they got it right, and I'm really struggling to find a spot where, unfortunately, I think like Seymour is going to handle that first round game. I just don't know how St. Croix Central can match up to the firepower that Seymour has.
Looking at D3, I think those top 3, I think the seeding is right. If you ask me who I would pick, I think you can pick a very strong argument for any of those 3 to win the state championship.
It's very similar to last year.
Yeah, in St. Croix Central is kind of which one of these is not like the other a little bit. Their record, their metrics, their analytics all trail the other ones a little bit more. I mean, I would, if somebody said, I think Racine St. Catherine's is going to win state, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. You're right. If somebody said Seymour or Lake Mills, I'd say, yeah, you're right. I don't think there's a lot that splits those teams, which means probably somebody's going to come out and win by 25 in every one of them.
Well, but I do think, I mean, and I'm not trying to slight anybody by any means, but like, I do think when you look at things on paper, right, like you look at a St. Cat's team and they really do go as Lamont Hamilton does, right? So if there's a team who can figure out how to slow down Hamilton, I think Lake Mills and what their coaching staff is capable of over there, I think they're a team that could definitely figure out a way to slow him down. You're not going to be able to stop the guy, but if you can keep him to like 16 to 18 points, I mean, who's going to pick up the slack for Racine St. Cat's at that point? And they don't want to play a game that's super, super high scoring, I don't think, in my opinion anyways. And, so
This field very much reminds me of last year, where last year you had 1 seed Freedom versus 4 seed Elk Mound, and you had 2 seed Academy of Science versus 3 seed Lake Mills. Like, this is very shades of deja vu a little bit with
Mhm.
regards to this. Um, we get star power. Lamont Hamilton's going to be there. Um, he's a kid that can literally put up 50 on any given night. And then I look at Seymour and Lake Mills as two teams that are literally two of the better complete teams, not just in D3, but across all divisions in the state.
Yeah, they have multiple guys that can do a lot of different things for them, right? You got, you want to talk about star power as well, like the Tyler Woolen kid, like that dude's a stud. And you guys were just talking before about the Marks kid too from Seymour, right? Like each team has guys that can really take over a basketball game. Lake Mills also has the Benish kid as well who can really get going from three. I don't know. I think there's some exciting. There's a whatever the state championship game is in D3. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, this division did not disappoint last year. I don't think it's going to disappoint this year. I don't want to just completely, not give St. Croix Central their flowers. I mean, but they do have two kids in Tanner Grinnell, who's 6'9", and Matthias Larson, who's 6'4", that do provide size. They are a
Yep.
physical team. So if they can really get into that half court and really just slow and muddy the game down, that's where I can see them having their best opportunity. But I was looking at, and when doing these write ups, Racine St. Cat's has been to the state tournament. This is their 8th time, and they've won state 6 of the previous 7 times they've been at state.
Wow. Well, and talking about St. Croix Central as well. I mean, you look at those guys, and they don't have like the one guy that sticks out, right? Where the other teams might have that guy. And you look at the balance, which there's something to be said about the balance, right? You have 14 a game, 12 a game, 12 a game, 9 a game, 7 a game, right? 2 guys with 7 a game. I mean, the balance there from guys. I mean, maybe that's something that we're maybe overlooking a little bit too. Who knows? Because you get the consistency from guys, and there's multiple tools that can get it done for you. Then maybe that is that's probably the reason why they're standing here, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Trav.
Yeah, I was just going to say I got a chance to see Seymour on a big court at Fiserv, where you're playing that 94-foot court, which I think gets overlooked sometimes. The difference that can make in a game when teams aren't used to that, or teams play a certain style,
Yeah.
that it can impact things. And they played in that big court in a big environment and made 15 3-pointers in that game at Fiserv, beating the Prairie School, just dominating that game. So they've got that experience in that background, that environment, that court, which I think can be helpful.
Do we want to do predictions? Do we want to predict whether it's the state championship game or just the state tournament winner? Do we want to save that maybe for the end and do that for all divisions? What do you guys think?
If we're going to do it, let's do it while we're doing that particular division, I say.
Okay, Trav, D3, who is your state champion and state runner-up?
Well, my pre-tournament pick, Freedom, went out, so I have to readjust. I think I'm going to take Seymour over Racine St. Catharines in the championship game. But again, I wouldn't argue any of the other the top 3 seeds, but I'll go Seymour over St. Cat's.
Chris.
I'll take Lake Mills over Seymour, getting their revenge from their loss against them in the regular season. I just really love watching Lake Mills, and I think that when they're at their best, even though they did lose to Seymour once already, I believe being at that game and seeing it in person, I just really think that for whatever reason, Lake Mills seemed a little bit tired that day, and I feel like they're going to get their revenge on Seymour and take home the gold ball.
My prediction is the same. Lake Mills over Seymour in Division 3. Regardless, I think it's going to be a great division. I think
Yeah.
it's going to give us some of our best games, honestly, of the tournament weekend. Let's hop to Division 4. As far as seeds go, Bonduelle got the 1 seed. They'll play Cambridge, the 4 seed, in that first matchup. This is the Thursday evening session. The semifinals are. And then game 2 is 2 seed Milwaukee Juno versus 3 seed Regis. This is one that I kind of scratched my head at a touch with regards to that 1 and 2 seed. Juno getting the 2, Bonduelle getting the 1. I will say Bonduelle had more impressive wins during their tournament run. I don't know if that had that big of an impact. I wonder.
It could. If you look at the teams that Juno beat along the way, especially into sectional play, Cedar Grove, Belgium, and Howards Grove were solid. But I think, if you look at the formula and what it entails, it didn't necessarily help them the same way that Bonduelle's opponents would have. Also, Juno played 3 out-of-state games, which, as we know, are handled a little bit differently. And I don't know the record of those out-of-state games, teams that they played, to be honest with you, to know how that would have helped and or hurt them.
Well, they were pretty lopsided affairs, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They had an 11-point win over Oakland, and I don't even know what Oakland that is, if that's Chicago or where that's out of. But again, in the Milwaukee City Conference, and even the division that they were in this year didn't do them great favors either. I think that's a factor of that. If you look at the Milwaukee City Gold, only one other team had a winning record in that conference. That was Milwaukee Hamilton. So that hurt that schedule component, that strength of schedule component enough that made the difference.
Yeah. I honestly don't think that there is anything wrong with how they seeded things for this. I think it seems to me to be just fine.
I'm a little surprised. I would have thought Juno would have got the 1. I'd give them a 1 if you asked me to vote. But again, just looking at how the things that go into it and knowing kind of that part of it, I'm not surprised that Bonduelle got the 1 either.
Yeah. And with regards to the other 2, I think Regis and Cambridge were the 3 and 4 coming into this. That first matchup, Bonduelle and Cambridge, you're talking about a Bonduelle team that state runner-up last year that got a little bit of chip on their shoulder. They've got the big man, the Wyoming football commit, Ryan Westrich, in the middle. Quinn Wesenberg, Carter Maish are their guards Quinn can really get it going, smooth lefty. That experience is huge when you talk about they've been to the Kohl Center. They know what this week is going to be about. They know what that day of and everything kind of that goes into it. They've seen that schedule and they've seen the bright lights before.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big deal. I think that's a big reason why Bonduelle is here again, right? We'll see. We'll see if the magic, if the slipper still fits for Cambridge and they can continue to make this run going here. But they have quite the tall task going up against Bonduelle in that first game.
Yeah, for Cambridge, did they come a year or a game short or 2 games short of the state tournament last year? But Coach Rainey, only in his second year, he's probably hoping I pick against them again, just because it seemed to bode well for his squad. But they get here, they're the 4 seed. They're 19-9. Their all conference list hasn't come out yet, so I haven't seen that. But they have beat some really good teams on the way here. They beat a Darlington. They beat a Lomira. They've knocked off kind of those 2 big favorites in D4.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, I guess. But I mean, you got that kid, the Westrich kid though from Bonduelle, who doesn't necessarily like to get up and run either. So I don't know. I mean,
I'm a big Ryan Westrich fan. I became a huge fan of his after the state tournament last year. I said this in a tweet. He just seems like such a nice and respectful kid, and just a big teddy bear. But man, he can be a little mean and physical on the court.
Yeah, that's great though. Love that.
Yeah. that second matchup, you get a Milwaukee Juneau team who, I mean, you talk about X factors in D4, and Dooney Johnson is the epitome of an X factor, especially at a lower level. They get a Regis team that can light it up. I really like Blake Risler. He's a senior. Um, DJ Cooper, Trav, we saw him at the Midwest Players Classic. That kid can absolutely get it going. And then the freshman Bennett Risler as well. What do you guys see Regis having to do to stay with a team like Juneau? Regis likes to get up and go. They like to, shoot the ball from the perimeter, but that might play right into Juneau's hands.
If they play that style, they're going to have to shoot 50% plus from three to keep up, because Juneau will be able to play that style better in terms of finishing. Regis is going to have to be disciplined when they get out and run like that. If they shoot it well, they can stay in it. If not, they got to be careful, because if they try to run up and down the whole game like that, I don't know that that's going to work out well for them.
Well, yeah, I think the X factor in this game is how Regis shoots the ball from the perimeter, right? I mean, for the season, Bound has them that's shooting at 41% as a team.
Oof.
I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yep.
I mean, they got guys shooting 46%. DJ Cooper shooting 81 of 176 for 46% from three. That's lighting it up,
He is a pure shot.
And then Blake Risler, obviously, too, 44.5% with 105 made threes. And then they have, two other guys who have 39%, 34%. So it's like, and then another 34%, right? So like in Bennett Risler. So like if they shoot the ball well, like Travis said, they can win this game. But you can't play the pace game either, right? Like, it has to be efficiency from three, not a number of threes type thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Juneau this year. I saw them last year at Fiserv. They lost, and I can't remember who they lost to, but Juneau got a little bit out of their game in that one last year, and now obviously they're a year older, more mature. If Regis can stay disciplined throughout, not only running, but just stay disciplined and frustrate Juneau and get them kind of flustered and off of their game, that can be an opportunity where they can do something like what Cedar Grove and Howard's Grove did, of keeping it close and staying in it, and then give yourself a chance at the end.
Yeah, one thing to note here in D4, we're going to get a first-time state champ. None of these teams have won the state tournament. For Cambridge and Juneau, this is their first ever state tournament trip. So a little bit of new blood outside of, obviously, Bonduelle. Bonduelle's first trip to state was last year.
And so, kind of crazy, too, if Milwaukee Juneau wins it. So technically their school is no longer Milwaukee Juneau.
Yeah.
They're what, McDowell Montessori? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But
did you know that, or do we need to credit Dan Barwick?
I know that because I know Torrey Johnson from a long time ago, for a long time, and I knew that those changes happened with the school. But did Dan tweet something out about that?
He did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing though, because
it is.
Well, and then so they obviously played their game at Hartford, and after the game, my AD was like, "Hey, you got to send these films over. Do you know why or where it is on Huddle?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I think because you have to look up McDowell Montessori on Huddle, not Milwaukee Juneau." And he was like, "Okay, I don't even, because it's like, what are you talking about?" You could tell. And I was like, "I'll get it figured out. Don't worry about it." So, and then so they're actually on there as that. So, yeah, just an interesting kind of tidbit. Not anything to do with basketball, but
I think Barwick earlier this year tweeted out that he was at who's in the Young Cogs gym? Kingdom Prep?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the Young Cogs state tournament banners were hanging in that gym.
Oh, wow.
Let's hop into D5. D5 will be the semifinals are the
We
first
got to do our
session.
picks first.
Oh, you're right, Chris. Thank you. Trav, D4, give me your state champ and give me your state runner-up.
All right. Well, let me correct something from Division Three. I said I picked Freedom. I didn't. I picked Racine Lutheran in D3, so I was wrong either way. D4, I'm going to go Juneau over Bonduel. I think Juneau's just too talented with Dooney Johnson, especially. I think Bonduel sets up well to potentially do some things with the interior size they have. Regis might be the better opportunity to beat Juneau just because of the way they can shoot it. But I'll take Juneau over Bonduel in the championship.
Chris?
Yeah, I'll go the same. I'll go Juneau over Bonduel in the state championship. But I do think Juneau needs to make sure they don't overlook Regis.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go samesies. Juneau over Bonduel. We're just giving bulletin board material for 3 teams at state, so that's good. But I think those games are going to be closer than what maybe the everyday fan or non-everyday fan would see or think. Heading into D5 again, that's our morning session on Friday. 1 seed was Reedsville. 4 seed was Sheboygan Lutheran. That's 2 Big East teams that'll face off in the D5 semifinal. The 2 seed was Prentice, and 3 seed was Southwestern. Talking specifically seeds here, this one probably was the biggest head scratcher that I saw with regards to Sheboygan Lutheran getting the 4 seed.
I think it's tough. I don't know that either of the 6 lost teams were going to be ahead of the 3 lost teams. So it's kind of Southwestern and Sheboygan Lutheran. Sheboygan Lutheran, I don't know. I probably would have had Sheboygan Lutheran as the 3. I picked them to win it before the tournament started, and I'm going to pick them today again. But if you look at the actual seeding, you're probably splitting hairs between Southwestern and Sheboygan Lutheran. Sheboygan Lutheran, I know, is using it as bulletin board material. There's already been some posts about it. So it does. I mean, I do wish if we were going to get Reedsville, Sheboygan Lutheran, that Big East cross division game, that it would potentially be in the title game if we were going to get it. But we get it right away on Friday morning, and that's going to be a great way to start Friday.
Yeah, Chris, any thoughts on the seeding process at all? Or we can just hop right into our
Not
preview?
really. I think Travis covered a lot of that. I do think that it's interesting, but I really don't think it's anything too crazy.
Yeah. Interesting enough, again, there's a lot of new teams at state this year compared to kind of what we've had in years past. Reedsville hasn't been there since 46. It was their only year there. Prentice hasn't been there since 1999. They've never won a state championship. And then Southwestern is making its second state tournament trip ever. First time was in 88. So outside of Sheboygan Lutheran, who's been there 5 times, 2-time state champ, we're getting some new faces here in D5 this year in boys basketball, which is, I think it's a good thing. I think those fan bases will probably be a little bit hungry to get down there and be at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it does for attendance.
Yeah, I want to talk about that at some point a little bit more in depth. That Reedsville team, though, you mentioned 1946. I mean, I believe there's a book written about them. I might even have it around somewhere here. It's kind of, our version of the Milan team from Indiana. That was a 1-class tournament back in 1946. They beat Eau Claire in the championship game, and that's that's a pretty, when you talk history, that's a pretty unique situation. That and Hurley won it a couple years later. Monroe won it Dodgeville and Monroe won it as a single class tournament. But that Reedsville team is one that's pretty well remembered.
Yeah. Top into these matchups. 1 seed Reedsville takes on Sheboygan Lutheran. Reedsville, they're the Big East North champs. They're led by that senior point guard. Ben Prochnow averages 20 and 10. He really, really commands the offense. He is a very ball dominant guard, but he doesn't get flustered much. The team, I think, really works well off him in their off ball movement, which then he's there's no pass that he's not willing to make. So he's kind of the steadying force there for Sheboygan Lutheran. This is a team that is state runners up from a year ago. They have Brennan Hackbarth, who's really solid. Oliver Liebham. I don't know if I said that name correctly at all. McCoy Michael, who's I believe a junior this year, maybe a sophomore. But then also return of senior Zach Leonard. So this is going to be a really good matchup in that first game on Friday morning. I think it's going to be a banger.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't play during the regular season. Right, they're in different divisions of the Big East, but still in the general geographic area. That they did not play in the crossover game because Oostburg won. What would that be? The south of the Big East. So Oostburg and Reedsville played in the crossover game. But yeah, I mean we've seen conference matchups at state before. It always does bring a little different component, even though these teams aren't in the same division. They've played previously. They played in other sports. They're familiar at least. And I think, like you said, it's going to bring a great amount of energy right away on Friday morning.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that it's going to get things started really, really well for Friday. And if you start really well that early in the morning with some great games, it just amps up the energy as the day continues. So I'm excited for that.
The second matchup, you have 2 seed Prentice, who has a group that is pretty senior dominant. They've got Aiden House and Evan Lord, 2, I believe, 1,000-point scorers on that squad. They've been on a roll as of late, playing the game just complete on both offensive and defensive side of things. And then you've got Southwestern, who, again, we talked about that drop-down effect. All 4 of these teams kind of play a little bit of a drop-down effect where they're playing D4s, D3s throughout the year. But for Southwestern, they're really fueled by their guards, Aiden Kelleher and Carson Splinter.
Yeah, one thing that sticks out with Prentice right away, though, is that they've obviously, like you said, they've been on a roll. They've won 10 in a row. Their point differential this year is at 27. Giving up under 50 points a game. That's a recipe for lots and lots of winning, especially at the highest level. So I don't know. I mean, the buck might stop here with Southwestern, with Prentice kind of just rolling right now.
If you were to ask me, I think that first game might get played in the 70s and the second game might get played in the 50s. When you're talking about these semifinal matchups, simply because I think Southwestern and Prentice, when they've played teams that they've been better than, they've scored the ball, but they've really relied on playing against some of those other teams in the 40s, 50s sort of games.
Mm-hmm.
D5 predictions. Trav, who's winning D5 and who's taking home the silver ball?
Again, I picked Sheboygan Lutheran before the playoffs started. I'll stick with that for right now. I'll take Southwestern in the other semifinal. Probably gonna not make Coach Nemitz happy that I picked them to win a game finally.
He hates when you pick him. I talked to him after the Crawford game. He's like, tell him to stop picking me.
I did. I promised him after last year when they lost in heartbreaking fashion again. I promised him last year I would not pick them to state because I had 5 or 6 years in a row. But I'm going to pick them to win at the state semifinal. So sorry, Coach. Probably the kiss of death. But I'll take Sheboygan Lutheran over Southwestern.
Chris?
So I'll go a little bit different direction. I'm going to take Prentice over Reedsville.
I like that. I think we're going to get 3 really good games here in D5. I think they'll likely all be close, to be completely honest. I'm also, though, going to go Sheboygan Lutheran over Southwestern for the D5. championship game. I think, I've talked about this at nauseum, but Zach Leonard back for the Crusaders is such a big, big boost for a team at this time of the year. Changing speeds almost completely, getting into D2. That is going to be our afternoon session on Friday. The semifinals will be 1 seed Slinger will take on 4 seed McFarland. 2 seed West Salem will take on 3 seed Whitefish Bay. I think, Coach, we talked about, or Chris, we talked about this before we went on live, just about the seeding in this one. So you want to talk about maybe your thoughts here on where you thought things might have shaken out?
Yeah, I was the first thing right away. I was a little surprised that McFarland was the 4 seed. Um, I felt like they for sure were the 3 seed with potential to even be the 2 seed, but and West Salem I thought was going to be the 4 seed. Um, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, obviously, or any of these teams, but I just felt like it was Slinger 1, Whitefish Bay 2, McFarland 3, and then West Salem 4, and um, it makes for a really interesting matchup 1-4 with Slinger and McFarland because um, McFarland's a team who can match the size,
Yeah,
length, and athleticism that Slinger has, which I think we might see an absolute dandy of a first game between those two. And then, Whitefish Bay and West Salem will be interesting. Will be interesting too, and just kind of who can sway to play their pace more than the other team's pace, right? Um, Whitefish Bay will try to come out and claim the pace of the game right away, like they do against everybody. Um, they do some things that are really, really good to just make you have to play the way they want you to play, and you have to
yeah.
beat them at their own game. Um, so I don't know. It stacks up for some good first round matchups here or whatever. But I think that Slinger McFarland game is really intriguing to me.
Trav, any thoughts on how this one seeded out, 1 through 4?
I would have thought West Salem's probably the 4. I think most people would have said that. Again, we talked about West Salem being in a D3, D4 conference earlier, and that doesn't come into play in the seeding process for the regular tournament and for the state tournament. So they get the 2. McFarland, they had a loss to Fort Atkinson late in the year that was not a good loss. They lost to an Oregon team that was surging, but not a great loss. They lost to Stoughton, who was okay. Um, yeah, again, I would have thought McFarland would have been not a 4, but it is what it is at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah, if I would have predicted, I would have gone Slinger 1, Whitefish Bay 2, and then honestly, I saw West Salem and McFarland kind of as a toss up in that 3-4 spot. If you look at the matchups individually, we're getting some star power. We got Slinger with the Conan boys. Coach Levine got win 100 in the sectional semis, so congrats to him. Um, they get a McFarland crew who that Kruger kid can really get it going. Coach, you mentioned it. They can maybe match that size and that length a little bit. That what Slinger doesn't see nightly. Um, Garrett Kroll is a very steady point guard for McFarland. He's also the quarterback, so that one's going to be fun. In that second matchup, Trav, you have something to add?
No, no, we can get to it later.
Okay. In that second matchup, West Salem, they've kind of been on just a revenge tour in these playoffs. If they almost lost in the regional semis, it was a 1 point win over a New London team who out of the Bay, that's a good squad, and then they got those revenge games over the Mississippi Valley teams. But they do run into a Whitefish Bay squad that has played some really good teams. Whitefish Bay also girls team state champs, so I think it's the only team that has both boys and girls at the state tournament
Yep.
this year. So big ups to them. Whitefish Bay has 4 kids that can really light it up. Colin Julian's a stud. the Miskow kid and Webb kid can really push the pace for them. And then is it Brederson? Is that the last name?
Broderson.
Broderson. I mean,
Yep.
he can get it going too. So all four of those kids can make it hurt if you leave them open.
Yeah, I think the Broderson kid gets overlooked a little bit on that Bay team. I think he's a really really good player, a two-way guy who locks people up on the defensive end, but then can score in multiple different ways. He can get hot from three. He also looks to post up kids that might be when he feels like he has an advantage. They'll throw him on the block and let him go to work there, and he does a really nice job too of getting to the basket. So I think he's a big X factor for them. And like you said, the Julian kid is an absolute stud. Really great kid, super well mannered kid who doesn't really say a whole lot ever during games and is super respectful all the time. I really like his game and what he does. And yeah, they're a really good team. They're deep and have multiple weapons, like you said. So it's a team that's playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after losing their last game of the season, which kicked them out of having a share of the North
Yeah.
Shore.
Yeah, when you look at this D2 field, one thing that stands out is that team that we kind of haven't talked. We've talked about the least, West Salem. This is their fourth trip in 5 years. They kind of been there, done that. For the other three schools, for McFarland and Slinger, it's been since the '70s since they've been at the state tournament, and then for Whitefish Bay, 2011 was the last time that the Blue Dukes were at the state tournament. So just to kind of continue that theme of uh, kind of new faces here at Madison.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to touch on McFarland just a little bit because again, I got a chance to see them twice this year, and they really run a lot through Garrett Kroll and Eli Krieger. They rely on them to produce not only points but also opportunities for the other guys. Um, Sophomore Braden Fisher has come on and done a nice job, but a lot of what they do offensively is based on those two guys creating opportunities for other people. Whether it's Garrett Kroll driving and dishing or working off of a pick and roll, dumping it down to Eli Krieger, and if teams try to collapse on him, kicking it out, they run a lot through those two. So if you can find a way to keep those two in check and not be able to just dictate everything else, then you can be successful. A guy like Cam Meinholt, Coach Meinholt's son, he's a designated 3-point shooter. He'll shoot it from 25 feet, but 175 3-point attempts on the year and 35 2-point attempts. So you got to run him off the 3-point line. And a lot of those, again, are off of drive and dish from Garrett Kroll or kick out from Eli Krieger. So that's going to be the key for Slinger to control those two guys. I imagine the Conans will take turns guarding Krieger inside, and it'll be interesting to see if they try to single him, if they double him hard. I got a chance to see, kind of how that went at the Deer District Prep Showcase with Slinger playing Freedom and what they did with Donovan Davis, and they completely took Donovan Davis out of that game. Davis got to the point where they were running doubles at him hard. They were just making life miserable for him, and he kind of stopped being aggressive. And if Slinger can do that with Krieger, that's going to make everything else easier on everybody else.
Yeah, Slinger's ability to rotate defensively is a huge strength for them.
I love defensive rotations.
And I think someone that we didn't talk about, we haven't mentioned yet, is Jude Sakarla, who comes off the bench for them, and he'll definitely be a starter for them next year. But he's another guy that can come in and help with that defensive assignment there, and giving them even more size. Like they'll play with those three guys on the floor, and they have in this postseason too. And he's been playing really really well. And Slinger does a really good job on the offensive end of playing through the Conan brothers, but also putting Joey in a corner and letting Jude and Jack work that high-low game. And it's like when you have Brett Palm shooting 40% in one corner, and then you have Joey Conan who can just get streaky hot in the other corner, and then you have those two big guys, 6'5" and 6'6", working the high-low game. It's really tough to handle because you can't really double down on them.
Got to guard the whole court.
yeah, it's it's a tough thing to do, but it'll be interesting to see how these two teams play against each other, just because they do seem to be rather even when it comes to a lot of that stuff, pound for pound.
D2 predictions. Trav, give me your state champ. Give me your state runner up.
I will stay with my state champ pick from before the tournament, which was Slinger, and I will go Slinger over Whitefish Bay in the championship game.
Chris?
Yeah, I'll go Slinger over Whitefish Bay as well. Showdown between the top two North Shore teams this year.
I'm going to zig a little bit where you guys zagged. I'm going to go Slinger as the champ, but I'm going to say West Salem continues kind of this run that they've been on in the playoffs, and they're gonna take home silver.
Could very well happen. I mean, they did beat Onalaska and La Crosse Central on their way here, so they've been battle tested too. So it could happen.
Guys, going back real quick to talking about that seeding, I just want to mention McFarland, if you look at their opponents' win-loss record, is quite a bit lower than what the other teams are, even than West Salem. Their opponents had 378 losses. West Salem's had 356. Slingers only had 306. So again, just when you look at the seeding and having 6 losses and or excuse me, 5 losses, and then their opponents not having a great record, that's what got them.
Yeah.
Going to D1, this will be the semifinal action. Will be the final session on Friday evening. D1 is the 1 seed Wisco undefeated Wisconsin Lutheran. I think they're coming in on a 38-game win streak going back to last year. They get 4 seed Appleton North. 2 seed De Pere will play 3 seed Madison Memorial. This is, we talked about it, it's the only division where the top 4 teams in the Bound Power Index are here. What did we, before we get really into the matchups, anything you saw with regards to seeds that you thought was head scratching?
I think you could have put those last 3 in any order and been fine. If you look at, again, the Bound Power Index, they're all, what are they, 4, 5, and 6 overall.
Yeah.
Their strength of schedule not significantly different. North having 4 losses compared to 3 and 2 for the other teams. It's probably what did it. I know Appleton North fans were a little miffed being the 4 seed as coming out of a very good FBA. I don't really care. Those 3 could have been in any order, and I wouldn't have argued it. I will say this. I think Appleton North might be the team best suited to give Wisconsin Lutheran a run out of those 3
disagree.
teams. With the senior experience that they have, even though they're kind of new on the big stage, that experience level is big, and having multiple guys that can score the basketball, they might be best suited to give Wisco a run.
Yeah, I agree. I think Appleton North as the 4 was the only one that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit, but like you said, Trav, I think the 2 through 4 could have gone either way, and there could have been reasons for whichever way it shook out. Valid reasons.
Yeah, I think ultimately the seeding is fine for me too. Like I don't think I would have argued either if it would have been a different order. Obviously, you knew who number 1 was. Everybody else is just hoping they're not the 4.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Looking at just kind of overalls, Wisco's coming in as on a 38-game win streak. They're back looking for a three-peat, back-to-back state champs, looking for a second undefeated season in 3 years. De Pere is back after they won the championship back in 2023 in D1. Wisco also won. No, it was 24. And was it? Yeah, it was 24-25. Sorry. And 24 was in D2. Madison Memorial is here after having that legendary run in the mid and early 2000s. It's the first time that the Spartans have been back since 2011. I would expect to see a big contingent of Spartan fans at the Kohl Center this weekend. I can only hope, at least. And then Appleton North, first time getting to the Kohl Center in program history. Let's look at the matchups. Wisco 1 seed, Appleton North 2 seed. We've talked at nauseum about Wisco. I personally think that they are the best high school basketball team I've watched um, in person and online. They share the ball so well. They've got 4 kids in their starting lineup that are 6'7" or taller. Um, but Appleton North is no slouch. Their starting 5 is super talented. 2 kids going D2, 1 going D3. The Sweeney kid hasn't necessarily said where he's going, but then that Matt Ross Plachowski, the sophomore, uber talented, leads them in scoring. So I think that this game is going to be one where Wisco is going to get pushed.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity there. I don't know how hard Wisconsin Lutheran is going to get pushed though, and I think Appleton North is a really really good team. Um, it's just really hard for me to say that someone's going to truly challenge and compete with everything that Wisconsin Lutheran has.
Well, what do we make of Wisconsin Lutherans? I don't know if they're playing with their food or if it's just teams are getting geared up for it's the Super Bowl when you play Wisconsin Lutheran. They've had those close games in the playoffs that maybe are closer than we would have anticipated. So is that a sign of
Well,
any
for
crack?
Do you mean? Do you
for a
mean?
half, you mean.
Yeah. Are you saying for
Fair
the
enough.
half?
Yeah. I mean, it was almost 30 points in the sectional final. They won by it was
They were up 48-4 also in the regional championship game.
right, but again, it was a close game at halftime against Milwaukee Hamilton. It was a competitive game for a long time against Racine Case. Is that
Well,
is
and
that,
I think
is that cracks in the armor, or is that just
I
sometimes it
just
takes
think
a little bit?
that's what we're going to see in this game.
They're getting
Because
teams' best punches.
I do think there is some feeling out factors at the beginning of games, especially in a state semi. So like things might start a little bit slow, and then like Colton just said, teams are giving their best punches, right? So I think it does maybe take the first 12 minutes of the first half for Wisconsin Lutheran to set in and be like, all right, here's what we have to do, and then when they turn it on, man, they're just so efficient at everything they do.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of compete with that for 36 full minutes, and most teams can't even do it for the first 5 minutes.
That second matchup we get FRCC champ De Pere, Big 8, co-champ Madison Memorial. Madison Memorial outside of that Verona game, pretty impressive. They beat Middleton, who was the other co-champ in the Big 8, pretty handily. De Pere has been really impressive in these playoffs. De Pere, they don't necessarily have, a Kinziger or Will Hornseth, but Will Kruger, he was a player of the year in the FRCC. He's played really, really good basketball. Noah Maniscalco, Jack Buchter. They got some guards that can really get things going. They don't necessarily have a lot of size. Madison Memorial, they've got Anthony Miller, who was first team All Big 8. They've got the Ligon twins, who are Bradley baseball commits, Andrew Braun, and then some other guys. And obviously, 2 really good coaches here in Steve Collins and Brian Winchester as well in this second matchup.
We've seen Madison Memorial and De Pere over the last number of years get to state and have some of the most dominating individual talent that we have seen. And this year, it's not that. It is a very different De Pere team than we saw the last few years. Obviously, it's a very different type of Madison Memorial team than the ones that we used to see get to state with Keaton Nankerville, Jerron Mayman, Vander Blue, Junior Lamamba, all those guys. So incredible coaching jobs by both coaches in showing just how valuable it is to have really good coaches that keep you in position to make that kind of run, even when you don't have multiple Division I players on your roster.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these 3 games similar. I think we're gonna have I think it's shaping up to be a pretty solid state tournament. To be completely honest, when you look at the divisions throughout, D1, give us your state champ and your state runner up.
Well, I will go out on a limb and take Wisconsin Lutheran. And I will go with De Pere on the other game. So I'll take Wisconsin Lutheran over De Pere. Guys, let's think about for a second that if it was not for a darn near generational run by Pewaukee, winning 3 state titles in a row, we could be talking about Wisconsin Lutheran going for 6 in a row. And with the talent they have coming back and coming up, going undefeated in their entire program, 2 Knipples in high school, another one coming up. Them
3
being,
Knipples in high school.
Yeah, 3. Sorry, being forthcoming. Yes, that this could be. I mean, I don't know when they're going to not win a championship again. It's obviously too early to say that for a lot of reasons, but we're in the media, so what the hell, we can say it.
Trav's giving his 2026 predictions here now.
I'm giving my 2030 predictions. But seriously, like, we could, if it wasn't for Pewaukee, Wisco lost to Pewaukee in the playoffs 3 years in a row when Pewaukee won state.
Yeah.
And again, if we expect Wisconsin Lutheran to stay on this kind of run, and there's no indication that they won't, I mean, in this day and age of elevation, it would be scary to think about what kind of things they could potentially be doing.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Chris, D1 state champ, and who's getting that silver ball?
I'm taking Wisconsin Lutheran over De Pere as well. And I just...
You don't need to explain it.
Yeah, well, I just think, and I don't think, I don't think it's going to be very close in the state championship game.
Yeah.
I don't think either of their games are going to be close.
I got Wisco over De Pere as well. This is not arguably, for me, it's the best high school basketball team I've watched. We're going to put a cap on the episode, I think. There was a couple other things that I would have liked to have talked about, but it's okay that we didn't get to it. Chris, state tournament is coming up. You'll be there all 3 days. Before we head out, give me your favorite just between session spot that you like to go, whether it's to grab food, to grab something else. Where do you like to head in between sessions at the state tournament?
I don't know if I have anywhere in between sessions. Thursday I always start with going to the main depot and hanging out there with my son and getting some lunch, and then just a short walk over that way to the Cole Center. It's kind of just where me and my staff have met and hung out. Great place to chill, a small little bar that's always got a lot of people in it. So that's kind of where we always go.
Trav, favorite in-between session spot? You don't usually get out to them.
Yeah, it's hard for us to get out with what we do and in work that we do and whatever else. I mean, in the past, we've gone a lot of different ways. We've gone towards State Street and Johnson in that direction. We've gone, sometimes it's easier to go on to Region and go like that direction to the west towards Camp Randall a little bit. There's that, what is it, Qdoba or Chipotle that's down there.
Qdoba is nice. It's just
it's a little quieter.
Quick walks. Yeah.
Otherwise, I like, the Echo Tap is nice, but it can be very busy in there. Going to the east of the Cole Center, over on Bedford. But otherwise, yeah, we've gone a lot of different places, but ultimately anymore, because it's so busy and we have such limited amount of time to get out and get back, I generally just stay in.
Yeah. March Madness this year, guys. How many brackets you filling out?
I don't know. I don't know how many brackets I'm actually going to fill out. I like the Survivor type stuff more than I like anything else.
Yeah. Trav, you like the Survivor type stuff too?
I will be in 2 pools, two traditional pools. Our family one that seems to always be won by one of our 8-year-old nieces, and then our club basement one.
Yeah, I think I'm in. Go ahead.
No, my son spent over an hour today filling out his bracket for our family pool. He is really pumped, and he thinks that he has the perfect bracket. So
probably does.
My son had 4 different brackets filled out, different brackets with different picks along the way in the first 10 minutes after they were available. So
my father-in-law had never filled out a bracket until I think 2 years ago, and I started one with her side of the family, and he was texting me. He texted me about 3 times on Saturday, wondering when the group was going to get going. So that's kind of funny. Chris, look forward to hanging out this week. We've been doing this virtually now since November. We haven't actually had time to get together during the seasons, and then we get three last days of basketball for the year, and it's gonna be a fun end of the year showcase. So,
Yeah, it should be
Chris,
a fun-filled weekend.
all right, guys, sign us off. Who's gonna do it?
I think it's Travis.
I did it last week. It's your thing, man.
Oh,
Well, one last time before the state tournament. Let's head to the baseline.